All right, guys, welcome to another Byte Federal podcast. I'm joined today by Texas Slim. So excited to talk to you and learn more about the beef initiative and the relationship with Bitcoin. So, Texas Slim, where are you coming to us from today? Are you in Texas or?
Yes, I am. I am back in Texas. It's been
All
a
right.
hell of a journey. It's funny. I was looking at the calendar this morning. I'm in the Texas Panhandle. This is where all this started. So
Right.
I'm back home. The world headquarters of the Beef Initiative is in the Texas Panhandle, and I've been on the road for 4 years, and we got a hell of a story, and we've been
Wow.
building ever since. It has been to the day that I formally shook the first rancher's hand. So
Wow.
that's like to the day almost. Tomorrow's the first day.
Awesome.
So, yep,
Well,
here
I'm
we
I'm
are.
I'm excited to have you here for that day.
Yes, sir.
Um, so, man, I want to step back because I've been following you. I've been following your work. I've ordered beef from you. Got other farmers here in Florida that I get my beef from. But I want to go back a little bit for viewers that may not know about you and your story and
Sure.
how this all started. And it sounded to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but this sort of is a really a unique combination of you learning about Bitcoin and then deciding, right, to build
Yeah.
this future. So maybe can
Yes.
you tell us a little bit about how this all came to fruition?
Well, it's a long story, and like I said, it's been a long journey, 4 years, but it's time to really kind of tell the story now that we have, we have brand identity now where we need to
Mm-hmm.
have it. So it's time to tell the story. How did this happen, right? What
Yeah.
is the why, the what, and the how? Here we
Yep.
go. So, well, what happened? I come from Texas. I'm a sixth generational. We argue within the family, is it seven or six generations? But which side of the family you on, right? And so I'm deep rooted in Texas. I mean, every bit of us, my family, generations upon generations come from the Texas Panhandle too. So we're deep rooted in Texas history, Texas agriculture. And that's all that my family ever knew all the way up until 1971, to tell you the
Okay.
truth. I mean,
Okay.
even before that, just a little bit before that. So I come from deep-seated agricultural roots, but I also come from agricultural poverty, to say that. So in my lifetime, I saw a shift happen, with what we did as a family, into where we were going into my adulthood. So at
Yeah.
19 years old, I'm broke. My town is dying. Agriculture is going through a financial crisis in the 80s. And there I have, I'm sitting here with nothing to do, no future, nothing. I load up my car, go to Austin, Texas. At 19 years old, I meet up with a bunch of cyberpunks. Here I am, this West Texas cowboy, soon to be a
Mm-hmm.
hippie punk cowboy. And, I taught myself technology. So 25 something years later, here I am. And, I come from Texas, a cowboy, tough, I'm a rough and tumble guy. I always have been. Horses, motorcycles, and I've always been hard on my body. I mean, that's just kind of what we do. I got very sick. I got hurt. I had an injury, and so I had to take a pause. And so I took a pause because the doctor said I was going to die. I'd got busted up. I'd broke
Mm.
some ribs, and I had an internal injury that I didn't realize that I'd basically ruptured a portal vein. And so I was down to like 125 pounds, and I'd already
Wow.
understood Bitcoin, but I'd never taken that pause to look into it. So,
Right.
here we go. All right. I'm sick. I come from agricultural poverty. Actually a research analyst. 25 years. I ended up working in the intelligence labs of telecommunications. Never went to
Okay.
university. So, that being that young, and technology afforded me an entry point into technology that a lot of people in the Bitcoin space don't even have, because you didn't need the university back in the day. All you needed was basically an understanding. And so I took that vision of what I saw and what my experience was within basically technology. I've never been much of a guy that loved doctors. And so have over 20 broken bones. I've got 14 pieces of metal, so I've always healed up pretty much on my own. So I said, okay, I'm going to heal myself because I know that I'm not going to die. I've been studying up on this Bitcoin. And so here I am. I'm going to facilitate this new form of food intelligence, money intelligence, and I'm going to basically get back to my roots because I know our cattle industry is under attack. That was 4 years ago. I
Wow.
knew that our food systems were going to be attacked as they're being attacked as we speak today. So I said, I got to get busy. So I
Yeah.
said, let's go, man. And I went out there and I just took my basically the DNA of my roots of agriculture and everything that I know in technology. And I basically created something called the Beef Initiative. And it's peer to
That's
peer.
awesome.
And this is what we're doing here is we're basically make America healthy again. That's a big
Mm-hmm.
statement. Well, four
Mm-hmm.
years ago on a podcast, I said, this is a great American health initiative that's going to be led by the great American rancher. And what I meant is that we need basically a new infusion of health in our money system in cattle industry, but we also need it in the health of America, from our children to our adults. And the best form of food in the world is beef. And I know this
Yep.
because I
Yep.
come from cattle country, damn it, and I know the best beef in the nation. So, and
Hmm.
here we go. And
Yeah.
I've been around the world twice now, driven 170,000 miles across the United States in a little over 2 years. So we have a hell of a story because we got 2 terabytes of data that we need to go tell the world what we've been doing the last 4 years as a nation, and a world wakes up to new money, new food, new health, new communications. It's time to launch basically a new phase of the Beef Initiative. And this is kind of, I haven't done a lot of podcasts in over a year, so this is kind of my introduction back into it.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to hear about this new push forward. Um,
Yes,
so we're sitting here in Florida today, and I know you've done some work in Florida. We've got
yes,
the Florida Beef Initiative and farmers that have gotten involved with your organization. But you also said you're traveling globally. Is
yes.
so are you taking the Beef Initiative globally? Is that what those trips
Yeah.
are about?
Yeah, it's
How,
been everything about, I have this hashtag. And I first started the Beef Initiative, I hashtag food intelligence, and it was all a bunch of nefarious bullshit lies about what is basically food and what is nutrition. So as I got that hashtag pumping, when we launched the Harvest of Deception, that first article that I released, I think September 21st of 2021. So that's real right at 4 years, right? And
mm-hmm.
so what we have to understand is that there's a global industrial food shift that's happening. And if you look at the cattle industry from where I came from, and from the panhandle of Texas, we basically control through the lifestyle at some point in time of a cow's life in the panhandle of Texas. We see 85% of the cattle industry
Holy smokes.
population of cattle in
80,
Texas comes
85%
through.
of Texas or 85% of the US?
85% of the cattle in the state of Texas
Okay.
comes through the Texas Panhandle.
Gotcha.
But then to get to say, Texas is leading in the nation as far
Yep.
as cattle population. So
Mm-hmm.
Texas is cattle. I'm sorry.
Yep. Yep.
That's in the Texas Panhandle is cattle. All right. But the thing about it is, a lot of people don't understand 80% of our beef that we eat in the United States is not American beef.
Right.
It's being imported. Okay, so where is it being imported from? And so we have to look at, as Bitcoiners, and I knew this, I could have stayed right here in Texas and created the Beef Initiative and call it the Texas Beef Initiative, and we're going to feed you Texas beef, and that's it. But what we're looking at is a global industrial food shift. And we got to wake up to this. Okay, Bitcoin has no borders, right?
Right.
There's no boundaries, there's no borders. Well, we can't have here in our mindset in the cattle industry moving forward the next 50 years, especially the next 10 years. We better know what the hell's going on in the global cattle industry. And a lot of people don't even have a freaking clue. So I've been to basically 3 continents, 2 hemispheres, and we've been doing global beef intelligence. And I've been to
Interesting.
Asia, been to Australia. The Western Hemisphere is not understanding what's going on in
Right.
food.
Right.
And there's a global industrial food shift. There's been some new ranches that have been created across this globe. The East is now the West is now the East, the North is the South is the North when it comes to agriculture and what they're trying to do to agriculture. So we better wake up. And the best way to do this is through a Bitcoin ethos, through decentralization, and making people understand that the beef initiative is not something that is just, it has no borders, man. This is an integration back into health of soil, into the health of you, into the health
Mm-hmm.
of basically a nation, the health of the soil, the health of the animal, the health of the forage, the health of the money. It's all an
Right.
integration that you don't have to have permission for government. Let's get back to the source of the seed on how we got here. So
Yeah.
if we're not performing this global reach, building out locally, broadcasting globally, then we're being highly irresponsible, and we're just being profiteers within the cattle industry in the United States of America. So I'm upon myself. We've got to turn this into a global awareness, what's going on in food and how it affects us here back at home. There's no way in hell we should be shipping 80% of our beef into this nation. We should be feeding
Right.
ourselves first, and then boom, feeding a nation after that.
Right.
So
Yeah, it
this is
is.
what we got to get back to.
I mean, so much of what you're saying aligns with Bitcoin, aligns with America First, aligns with health. And I mean, I think COVID really triggered a lot of people to waking up to all of these problems that are in the systems.
It did.
I always talk about Bitcoin being sort of the center of the spoked wheel, and no matter
Yeah.
where you wake up on the wheel, whether it's food intelligence or pharmaceutical corruption or financial corruption or the corruption in printing money, you know, wherever you wake up on that wheel, everything's going to drive you back into understanding that
Yeah.
Bitcoin is sort of the like the inoculation, right? Because that's sort of like that fake money is a virus that's
It
feeding
really
all of
is.
these
Yeah.
corrupt edges of that wheel.
Yes.
Um, so let maybe we like let's I want to step back, right? You said in your latest comments there that, you know, back to the soil. And
Hmm.
I think for the little bit I understand about regenerative agriculture, that's so important.
Yeah.
And people don't understand the impacts, the positive impacts of cattle when done properly. We're not talking about piles of dirt corrals, right? We're talking about ranch land,
Right.
grass-fed
Yes.
cattle that are actually a part of the ecosystem and benefiting the soil as in the grass, and creating an environment that we're all going to thrive from, and we get the
Yes.
benefit of that animals. Maybe let's start there
Sure.
and work
And
up the system, work through the whole international food chain from this premises of, if we're doing it right for ourselves, we're not only curing ourselves, but we're also curing our environment.
yeah, and once again, I mean, this is why did Texas Slim start the beef initiative in the Bitcoin space? I did. I started
Yep.
Bitcoin. I started the beef initiative on Bitcoin Twitter, and there
Yeah.
was a reason
Yeah.
behind
I
that.
remember that. I remember
Yeah, it's like I could have went out there and started with Cowboy magazine, all kinds of,
that.
fiat driven centralized publications. But let's get back to the soil, man. That's everything. Where do I come from? Well, I come from the Llano Estacado, the desert high plains. I come from Camacharia. What is that? Well, it was the last place that basically was ever established or civilized, as we say,
Hmm.
in Texas. This was the place where I come from, is the longest standing war in American history. Was the War of the Comanches. Okay, Native Americans. Okay, why were they so fierce? Why were they so tough? Well, they had a food supply that they basically relied on for thousands of years, and that was the bison.
Hmm.
Okay, well, the bison, roamed and grazed these grasslands for, thousands of years, millions of bisons. And so, whenever you look at what happened in 1971, of course, we went off the gold standard, but even before that, you look at agricultural practices. Let's go back to the Dust Bowl. Okay.
Hmm.
What was the Dust Bowl? Well, we had commoditized wheat to a certain point. We were grazing our damn, grasslands into, a commoditized wheat system. Too much plowing, too much wind, too much drought, blah. That's just the fiat way of doing things. We destroyed
Right.
our soil early and quick. And so, if you look at that, they went to the Native Americans, and especially, during the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl, they said, "What's going on here?" And the Native Americans said, "Upside down." And, they said, "What are you talking about?" And he was talking about the root system. We're looking at corn, and corn's, 5, 6 feet tall, but the root system is now, what, this
Mm.
long. Back in the day, you had our agriculture, our forage, you had our grassland. We call it buffalo grass here. Buffalo grass about that long. Root system's about 5 feet long.
Wow.
Okay, what does
Crazy.
that mean? That means that you have soil, you have nutrients. That
Hmm.
means that dirt is not blowing into the atmosphere. That means carbon's being sequestered. That means that you have beautiful soil, you have beautiful forage, you have beautiful nutrients coming that is protected deep within the soil that is now being transferred into the bison and into the animal, into basically, a an animal that, of course, the bison, the cow, everything. But if you look at modern times in the cow is nothing more than a land tool to make sure that the soil is kept healthy and basically that it is able to regenerate itself and rejuvenate basically nutrients that
Hmm.
we have relied on for thousands of years. The last 50, 60, 70 years, we've taken those nutrients out of the ground. We've taken them out of the forage. We've taken them out of the soil, the forage, and the animal because we went off the gold standard and we went into a
Hmm.
fiat money system that nobody understands. And
And that's
so
is
by,
this is really what regenerative uh, ranching is all about, right? It's about trying to mimic those
yeah,
historical herds and the movements through the plains, but doing it
sure,
in a small scale through your own ranch, right?
you bet. I mean, you look at, yeah, and it's funny because I get to be sarcastic now. I've been doing this for so long, but people always say grass finished beef, grass fed beef. And I said, well, I
Yeah,
never met a cow that didn't love grass.
right.
So let's get to perspective. What are we talking about when we're talking about, regenerative, agriculture? We're just basically doing what we always did, guys.
Right,
We're basically letting the animals do what they do best.
right.
Okay, the animals create fertilizer for other animals. There's such an orchestration of basically life and nature that happen whenever you understand livestock and you understand soil and you understand forage and how the whole system works. Well,
Hmm.
after World War II, of course, we were, quit bombing so much. So we turned basically gunpowder into fertilizer. And then that fertilizer was a fantastic thing in the 50s. It's not a good thing right now.
Right.
Okay. It's as simple as that.
Yeah,
Was it
we've lost.
nefarious? Who knows? We don't
Yeah,
know.
right.
But what we've gotten here is we've gotten these multinational, basically corporations that are now being run by governments. And we have basically the gig is up, man. We've basically the health of this nation. What did everybody watch yesterday? What happened on, in Washington? There's an epidemic of health. Well,
Hmm.
we've been slowly killing ourselves on false profits with a false monetary system. And
Yep.
we've destroyed our soil because of that. So let's get back to the way we used to do things.
Yeah,
Back the
yeah.
way
I
that,
mean,
that's it.
what
It's
the
so simple, it's complicated. That's
yeah,
what
well, yeah, the
sucks.
comp, the comp, it is simple, but it is,
Yes.
I mean, the complications around it are right. The food pyramid's a scam.
Yep.
What you're taught about health care and nutrition is a scam. And
Yep.
so until you wake up from that stuff, it looks very complex. But once you wake up from that, you realize, oh, it is really, really simple. Let's
Yeah.
just get back to basics.
Let's
And
get
and
back.
I love looking at those pictures of Americans in the 20s and the 30s
Yeah.
that were closer to this authentic food system than, way closer than we are today, and how fit they all were.
Yeah.
Right. And we have a lot of great examples in our current lifetime of people that are in incredible health that are eating nothing but red meat. Right.
Yeah.
So um,
It's
you just have to
once
you
again,
have to try it. You got to test it on yourself and see how it makes you feel. I was shocked at how much red meat I could eat and how good I felt. There was never, I could literally gorge myself, and I never felt like I was going to have to go sleep and pass out from
yeah,
digestion. Like
never.
it's a whole
Yeah.
nother ball game. And until you try it, don't deny it. Right.
Well, let's get perspective real quick. And this is, I've learned to do this. And I'm not the guy that is going to go out there and tell you everything that's wrong with the pharmaceutical industry and everything else. There's too much information. There's way too many great influencers out there doing so much good work.
Mm-hmm.
Be it keto, be it carnivore, be it whatever it is, man. This is not a judgment on basically anybody's consumption, but
Yeah.
we don't know what food is. I'm sorry. In the United States of America, we don't. And we've basically engineered so much technology into a food system that, even politicians, even nutritionists, they don't understand really, how the metabolical system of humans are actually supposed to be working. And the best that we can do is go back to organizations like Weston A. Price, back in the early 1900s, going
Mm.
back to, like you said, the 1920s, 1930s. Basically, health is not a diet, okay? Eating healthy. What the Beef Initiative does and what my Great American Health Initiative that I talk about, it's a lifestyle, man. And what our lifestyle has basically engineered ourselves into is analysis paralysis. We think we're really intelligent when it comes to food and nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
No, we're not. I'm sorry, we're just not.
No, we're
Okay.
not.
And food is a drug. And if you can accept that, if you can accept that food is a drug, then you know that you have a starting point of understanding and clarity. If you're going to sit here and analyze food and analyze, diet programs and analyze, what is health, then you're going to be lost for a long
Mm-hmm.
time until you just
Yeah.
put your foot down and saying, what I've been told, as you said, is a lie when it comes to food and nutrition and health. So that's what I did. I went and looked at myself in the mirror and I said, I'm going to heal myself. I'm going
Yeah,
to know
absolutely.
myself. And I'm going to basically, nobody's going to save your ass.
That's
So you're
right.
going to have to engineer your own consumption model. That means audio, video, food. And that's what I did. I went
Yep.
back to what we used to be, where I know that my family, the genetics that I have came from basically eating beef that came from deep within the soil. And
Right.
so that's what and now you have a lot of people out there realizing that. And
Yeah.
so pick your entry point. But
Yeah.
damn it, understand what food is and understand what they're doing to food. And that basically food has been used against the peasants, against the plebs, against the slaves as a weapon for thousands of years. And if you think what they're doing to food right now has anything with the climate, then you're
Yeah.
basically, good luck to you. Bless your
Yep.
heart.
Yep.
Because what they're
Exactly.
doing is they're going to devalue our food even more. And they're
Yep.
going to devalue our basically access, market access from producers and consumers into what we have known as basically being the best food industry the world has ever seen. But it's been so depleted and devalued that we don't even know where to stand anymore within that system.
Right.
And so until you exit out of that centralized basically infrastructure that is the integration from soil to your plate, that is multinational control right now that has too much money to even try to combat it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
why it does take the individual to say, I'm not going to validate these deceptions anymore. So the only way that this changes is through consumer demand. And
That's
that's up
right.
to the individuals saying, I ain't going
That's,
to put up with this
oh
bullshit
yeah, yeah.
anymore.
I'm so glad you said that because that's exactly the way I feel about it. Is that until we can change the minds of the consumer, until
Hmm.
they realize those health benefits, they realize how much better they feel, how much better their body's functioning. That's the I think the trigger that says, okay, I'm going to go meet that farmer. I'm going to go get a 13 cubic foot freezer and put a cow in it. I'm going to make this happen because I realize the benefits of that in my life. And then,
Yes.
and then, like, I haven't, I mean, I used to try, right? I came from an ag background. So, but in all fresh vegetables. And
Right.
I remember in being 15, 16, sent out to the fields with the harvesting crews and having the foreman say, we're not going in that field. I was like, what do you
Yeah.
mean? He's like, no, they just sprayed that yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh no, don't eat that, don't touch that yet, we got to give it a few more days before we can even touch that, right?
Yes.
And the harvesting crews, they wouldn't eat the stuff, they didn't, and they were they were gloved up, masked, I mean the whole ball of wax, right? Like they know. And
Yeah.
it was very eye-opening to me at a young age, all this vegetables are good for you, vegetables are good for you, and then all of a sudden I'm realizing like this is freaking poison, and it takes a certain amount of time before it's even uh, not going to make you sick from eating it, where the poison dissipates enough that you can tolerate it, to being, to then going on this journey of I'm going to eat organic vegetables, to then move, realizing that I was deficient in other things, and then finding finally the carnivore diet. Right.
Yes.
So it took me many years. I'm 53, so I didn't really get on this program until COVID. But
Right.
but it was just this journey of like this food is not right, and I'm trying to figure it out. And I've really kind of settled on that. I still love my vegetables, good organic vegetables. I still love them, but I love cheese. I love real meat. I try and eat organic, grass fed as much as possible. And now, when I go off that diet, if I go out to eat at a restaurant, I pay a price.
You do, you
That
feel it, don't
you
you?
feel
I mean,
horrible.
you
Yeah.
really do. And that's, that's that clarity that you have to
Mm-hmm.
do. It is, it's a, like I say, it's a lifestyle. It's not a diet.
That's right.
How do you change your lifestyle? How do you, what are you doing right when you wake up in the morning, man? I got
Yep.
down to, yeah, I'm telling you, man, I was damn near dead. I looked bad. Okay. I mean, I looked bad. I didn't go straight into eating beef, right?
Yeah.
I started, broth, all kinds of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my personal story, man. But it was because it was intentionality of understanding first and foremost what the what and the how, the why is because I was trying to save my life. What is the what and the how? That's what
Mm-hmm.
we've got
Mm-hmm.
to figure out. Okay.
Yeah.
What is the what and the how of food, and how do you have market access to that food,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Because we try so hard, and the trust of this nation, and especially in agriculture, middle America, our trust has been totally corrupted. And if you look at that, okay, a lot of very good, smart, intelligent people, educated, well-meaning people, do the very best they can to try to engineer a type of market access to some truth in food. It is almost impossible to do anymore. And that's what I knew about, even 4 years ago. And that's what everybody's waking up to, from our labeling laws to, no sugar added to,
Mm-hmm. Mm.
what is,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
USDA, property of USA, all these things that people try so hard to understand, to disseminate,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
all they ended up becoming is a deception. So
Right.
once
Yeah.
again,
Well,
all right,
let's talk about this deception and labeling
sure,
and the marketing of all these products, because it is. I mean, I have made the decision. I haven't bought beef in a grocery store for like 4 or 5 years now, but
good job.
before that, I was trying to find the organic, the grass fed, but I've now even come to understand that that's not legitimately true all
No.
the time. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that and what's going on there.
Well, I mean, once again, okay, you've commoditized a livestock, an animal, right? Whenever you've commoditized a beast, that's what a cow is. It's a
Mm-hmm.
beast, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are majestic, animals. And so whenever you've commoditized that animal into a food system that basically is so processed and so commoditized and so devalued and so basically formulated to be spread in so many different directions, then how can you even know what beef is, right? Okay. And so how does that happen though, right? Well, it happens through a period of time, through generations, of saying that we're feeding the world. We never fed the world, man. We never did.
Hmm.
And you know what? That's what one thing again, our producers, our ranchers, they really do believe that we are feeding the world, and they really stand by that. But they're a lot of times they're so removed from the real factual things that are happening in our food supplies that they don't realize that our beef is not feeding the world, and we're not even feeding our children anymore with that
Right.
beef, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, well, what happened? Well, okay, one, we have this thing in the cattle industry. I'm going to speak to the cattle industry specific to this because it's a huge issue, and I'll get back to the labeling laws.
Sure.
Okay, we have the beef checkoff mark in the cattle industry. Well, that beef checkoff mark has done one thing, and we've paid in over $10 billion ever since the 80s into this program. And you know what? The best thing that ever did for us was beef. It's what's for dinner. It
Mm-hmm.
was a commercial. It was a marketing plan that happened, and it was very effective, right? And everybody was like, hell yeah, man, I'm American. I'm eating beef. And it was like, this is a damn good marketing plan. It was meant to basically support the independent rancher and producer. Okay. Very simple. It's like, okay, that was built whenever we were still eating a lot of our own beef. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we were shipping beef overseas, but man, we had confidence that this is the best beef in the world. You're going to have market access. You're going to find it at the supermarket. And everybody got behind that, and it worked for a period of time. And you can still go to YouTube today. Beef, it's what's for dinner. That's
Mm-hmm.
Sam Elliott, And unfortunately, I think he just endorsed Kamala Harris. That's the type of
Mm.
shit that is, dystopian shit that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at that, okay, that's the deception that's happened within our food. Okay, you've got people thinking they're feeding the nation. We're paying this in, so we're going to support independent ranchers and producers. Well, you look at our food labeling laws and we say, well, we really want everybody to have premium beef. What is premium beef? Well, it's organic and it's grass fed. Well, we found out, especially during, the holistic movement of Whole Foods, and we're going to look at White Oak Pastures, Will Harris.
Mm.
Well, he lobbied to develop a protocol of something called grass-fed beef. And that basically protocol was introduced to Whole Foods.
Mm-hmm.
And so Whole Foods said, hell yeah, man, we need to, this is good. This is good beef. It's grass-fed beef. It's organic. It comes from regenerative practices. Will Harris did an amazing thing. He had another group of ranchers and producers that also helped him get that protocol introduced into Whole Foods. Okay. Once they did that, okay, grass fed beef, here we go. Well, what that did really kicked off in the cattle industry and everything is it's now to this date, it's a lot of confusion because people don't even know what is good beef. And if you have basically just somebody saying it's grass fed and that means that it's good beef, then once again, a new deception that happened through our labeling laws. Our labeling laws are now to the point where the FDA has something called the Gross Rule, generally recognized as safe. And I'll go back to a couple of years ago to during COVID when everybody was distracted. It was October of 2022, I believe, 21, October of 21. The FDA won a lawsuit and it was under the Grosh rule when it came to basically labeling what is food or what you need to know about the food that you're consuming. And the FDA that year won a lawsuit to 2,000 new chemicals were introduced into our food system. Okay, so whenever 2,000 chemicals gets introduced into a food system that has to have labels, they don't even have to tell you that that chemical is there, then how bad do you think the labeling laws are when it says organic and grass fed? How
Mm-hmm.
are they basically verifying that this is grass fed beef? It's impossible, man. You got to follow protocols that Will Harris did develop, great protocols. But can you truly verify that your beef is grass? No, man. The
Mm-hmm.
labeling laws in the nation it's a clown show at this point in time. And if once again, if you really are looking at your food and you're looking at those labels and thinking basically that you're going to be assured that that is organic grass-fed beef, then, once again,
Yeah. Yeah. I
what can
can
you
tell,
say?
I can tell people listening, um, what's on that label doesn't mean shit.
No,
What
please.
the only thing that works is when I go out and I pick up my beef at my farmer's ranch and
Yeah.
I see the cows and I see the grass they're eating and I know how often he moves them and he loves those animals
Well,
and
let's go back
he
right there, right there.
yeah,
All right, I have to make this point because
yeah.
if you've got a rancher wanting to talk about his beef and then what he gave that cow, the whole life of that cow, you're eating the
Mm-hmm.
best beef you can have possibly eat
Absolutely.
because there's no way in hell he basically you being there and you're having a
Yep.
conversation with the he's not going to lie to you. If you
He's
come
not.
up to these old boys that are commercial, and I'm not talking bad about anybody, and they're saying I wouldn't eat my beef that I
Right.
sold at the auction house. What does he mean by that? He probably raised that cow perfectly just as well as the regenerative guide over here trying to get his beef sold at Whole Foods, right? This commercial commodity cowboy rancher did the same damn thing. That's what this nation doesn't
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah,
What happens,
exactly.
he has to take his beef to the auction house because he doesn't have a processing center that he can take his beef to market.
Mm-hmm.
Once he
Mm-hmm.
sells at the auction house, that's when the multinationals take it over. Whole new feeding protocol gets introduced, 30 to 90 days, finish off the beef, make 4 times the amount of profit that that producer made. Injections, new feed, hot feeds, GMO. Here we go. Let's
Yeah,
go.
right.
Let's get it
Right.
on steroids,
Yeah,
and we're
we're
off to the
real
races.
we're really lucky here in South Florida that we've got lots of small guys that it's not for human consumption, but
Well,
but
once again,
right,
regulatory capture,
yeah,
this is,
not for human consumption, but I'm enjoying the shit out of it.
yeah.
Um, but so you're I think we kind of hit the nail. And so, what is the nail in the coffin here for the small farmer? Right? Is
Right.
that commodity producer doesn't have an outlet that he can go to have his cattle processed and sold to the market.
Right. And we brought up earlier, you know, how does all this change? How did we get here?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it's consumer demand, right? It's the dollar. So what happens, and this is what everybody real this is what I'm going to be doing now. It's taken 4 years to where people will now finally start understanding what happens within livestock, agriculture, food systems, you know, distribution, aggregated, global, domestic, you know, regional, you know, county, all that kind of stuff. There's so many rules, regulations, and everything. We basically have so many, you know, regulatory capture is a short way of saying it, but that's what's really going on here because, you know, that producer, okay, not every damn cowboy rancher out there can be the face of beef. You
Right,
know, you
right.
can't. And you have to have labels. Let's go back to Jimmy Dean. Okay, Jimmy Dean established Jimmy Dean Beats in 1969 in the state of Texas, about 45 miles down the road right here. So what did they do to his basically, you know, brand? Because he did wholesome, good hog, man. That's a bet
Mm-hmm.
that everybody grew up eating Jimmy Dean, you know, right here in Texas. He had a radio show. He was a personality. He had brand
Mm-hmm.
identity,
Right,
right?
right.
Okay, he created brand identity over 2 decades. He really hustled, man. He was a great character, good guy, and everything. Well, Jimmy Dean is now owned by China. Okay, okay, there you have it. All right.
It says it all.
Boom. All right. So, how do we get that producer that can't be Jimmy Dean? How do we get his beef onto your plate? Well, it's through the processing centers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
85% of our animal protein in the United States is now controlled by four multinational, basically 4 to 5
Just four.
national. Yeah,
Four
that's it. That's it. And they're not even American companies, folks.
that are processing.
85%.
Not so
Yes.
we got American farmers sending their stock to a foreign processor, and there's only four in the whole United States.
That's the only thing that they can do because we
Yeah, they
got
have
rid
no
of
other
all of our
choice. Right. So,
microprocessing
so
centers.
yeah. So no matter how good they may be at raising that quality beef, they're ending up in a situation where that's all going to get taken away.
His prime beef, once he sells that at an auction house and you look at that cow, you're like, damn, that's a damn good beef. That's what they're going to do. You're going to say, that's prime, man. We got a grading system. We know, man, that back fat, everything is perfect on that cow. That's a damn good rancher. Auction house, they see that. What happens? Well, I mean, they've got brokers, beef brokers, everything. Okay, well, there's some people over there in Asia, man. They're paying a hell of a lot more money than Taco Bell and McDonald's is for that
Right.
beef. And so, yeah, the damn prime beef. Well, they're not even probably going to inject it in with all that other bullshit. They're going to take it straight from what that damn good American producer raised that
Gotcha.
beef. You see what I'm
Got,
saying?
yeah. So the quality is getting shipped to the highest bidder.
Hell yes.
Everything else is getting shipped off to a feedlot, fattened up for the industrial food system. So is that
And I'm
right?
going to
Or
challenge,
okay,
and this is where it's been 4 years on the road. I'm going to challenge the commercial cattle industry in the United States of America. I will sit down at any table and I want you to tell me exactly what happens to every cow that after our American independent American producer has raised that right over here outside of, let's say, Kittiquay, Texas. What happens whenever he takes that beef to Hereford, Texas, and that cow gets in a 30-day program? And where does that cow go from Hereford, Texas? And see, this is what I'm going to start telling everybody. And
right.
see, this is what a nation doesn't
They
understand.
don't have
And
any
this is
idea.
what our producers don't understand. And it's not a judgment against them, man. They just don't have access into that world of what's really going on once that cow is sold
And
away
that's
from
why it's
their ownership.
so important for you to be doing all this international travel and seeing the
Hell
entire food
yes.
chain, seeing the way
Hell
this stuff
yes.
is handled from farm to plate.
Yeah, because you got these aggregated distribution systems, and a lot of these distribution systems, they're petroleum companies. Okay, they're just not
Really?
shipping petroleum across the United States and across the world. Well, they got to have some other things. They ship animal protein too.
Okay.
So let's get into, you know, who's winning this bidding war on aggregated distribution and why. And who
Okay.
controls that aggregated distribution? Well, it's the packers there in Hereford, Texas, that took that basically ownership of that cow that was, right out here on the Texas prairie lands. Where does that beef end up? And I'm going to challenge the commercial cattle industry to tell America where it ends up. We don't need no digital chip to track it either. All we need to know is where it's going to be distributed, which country it's going to, and where basically it's going to be consumed. Because the beef initiative, well, we can tell you because we know every cow, we know where it came from, and we've been doing this for hundreds of years. And we can be as transparent as you want because we have the processing centers. They're
Mm-hmm.
not controlled by the multinationals. And so
Right.
this is what we're going to start doing in the beef initiative. Actually, I have a meeting today at 1 o'clock with some people in Nashville, in Tennessee, microprocessing centers, or supporting the existing regional microprocessing centers that are out there that are going out of business because where are the
Yeah.
cows going right now? They're being sold at the auction house into the multinational system, being shipped overseas to the highest bidders.
I
We've
want
got
to
to
I
get it
want to
back
I
into.
want to get into your microprocessing because from following you, I know that's the solution.
Mhm.
But before we do, let's talk about what people don't know, which is what
Sure,
happens to that great cow. Not the one that got sold to Japan to be $100 per ounce,
sure,
right? I'm talking
right,
about the average good quality cow that is going to go and get into a feedlot and get fattened up for Taco Bell. What
sure.
what happens to that animal?
Well, let's get perspective. Let's talk about Taco Bell. Let's talk about domestic beef consumption. Let's
Mm-hmm.
just put it that way because
Okay.
it's the best we can do. And okay, 80% of the beef consumption in the United States is burger. Okay. All right. 80% of the beef that is consumed in the United States is burger. Okay. 80% of that burger is foreign beef. Okay.
Mm.
What we're using in our burger in the United States of America is basically just the fat. Okay, we'll have that cow that you just talked about. That beef is going over that tomahawk ribeye is going over there to Japan, right?
Right.
Okay, what about all the fat? What about all the suet, everything? Well, we're going to take that domestic fat, we're going to put it into the basically the trim of the foreign beef, and then we're going to basically make up about 80% of our beef consumption in the United States. So our cows are basically, in San Antonio alone, south of San Antonio, I don't know the year of it, but they did basically a study. And you asked what happens to that cow. Well, they did a study on a vat of hamburger. Okay. And so within that 1 pound of burger that came out of a massive big, I guess batch of burger, they found 92 genetics of 92 different cows in one
Mm.
pound of ground beef. So
Jesus.
you ask me where does that cow go? There,
Yeah.
nobody can tell you.
Right.
Nobody can tell you because the system is basically made sure that that cow is never known about. And what we do is we try to regulate we try to regulate the mindset of America, thinking that we can know exactly where that cow went. You're not going to
Right.
know where that cow went through, no matter how many RFID chips you put on our ear tags, no matter
Mm-hmm.
anything that you try to do until we actually change the processing of our cattle, then you're not going to know where your beefs are coming from. But see, once in the beef initiative, we're doing that because our processing centers, we don't create
Yeah.
burger like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we can tell you exactly where that cow ended up, where it started, the genetics. Like right now, I mean, I've got a burger line coming out, and it's coming out, I think, October 15th, and it's going to be, cleanest beef in the nation. Well, that genetics of that cow, I can tell everybody. I can tell basically the ranch it started from, who basically engineered the genetics, where the bull is, where the mom was sire, everything about that cow. And it's only because of the relationships and basically the integration of transparency that the Beef Initiative is letting everybody know you don't have to have all this regulations basically
Mm-hmm.
to understand where your food is coming from. And
Right.
it's not that complicated because we've been doing it since day one.
Right.
We've been having ear tags. We have a system that is so analog, it's so simple that you're
Mm-hmm.
not confused. And this is
Yeah.
once again what a nation is lost
So we have
because
these amazing American farmers shipping off their top quality product
yeah,
internationally to the highest bidder, while we're sourcing the globe for the cheapest garbage we can to put into our food system.
pretty much that sums it up. Let's just generalize it. You know,
Yeah.
that deserves that type of generalization because it really is that simple.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to, get into, discussion and debate about all that, well, we ain't got time for it because we
Right.
already know that all that is happening. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not even a debate anymore. This is what
All
we're
right. All right.
doing. This is our business model in the beef initiative.
Yeah.
And you guys want to judge it, go ahead, because we've already shipped, I don't know, millions of dollars worth of beef, and we've already fed tens of thousands of families over the last
Yeah.
4 years using beef and Bitcoin. And that's something that we can basically now say we have proof of work.
Yep.
Because the Bitcoin ethos, what is it? Hey, man, don't trust until you verify.
That's right.
Well, now you
That's
can
a
verify
that's
your food system, man.
that's the farmer's mentality. That's the
Yeah,
mentality I grew up with. It was proof of work, right?
it really
Nothing
is.
came out of the ground unless you put the work into it. So,
There's accountability in agriculture,
mm-hmm.
right? There's
Yeah.
accountability in farming and ranching. You
Mm-hmm.
can't go out there because a nation has lost the understanding of accountability. It's not basically shouldn't be put on the rancher producer to
Mm-hmm.
follow that same lack of accountability.
Yeah, exactly.
Once again, it's so simple. We've been doing this shit for hundreds of
Right.
years.
Go see how
And just
hard it
because a
is, right?
nation just,
I tell people this all the
uh,
time. I go grow a few tomato plants in your backyard in a pot and
yeah,
see how much yield you get out of that, and then
right.
equate that to how much you eat on a weekly basis, and then you begin to realize how much land and how much work it does take to feed a family. It's
Well, it
people
really,
are
yeah.
so separated from that reality,
Yes, they
that they
are.
don't have an understanding of the proof of work that goes into feeding the world or America
Yeah.
or you're just your
Yeah.
family, right?
Well,
So
let's think about that, Paul, though. Let's put perspective once again. Okay, this was not a issue. It's not that hard to get back to where we were. This is the money issue, man.
yeah, yeah,
That's all
yeah.
it is. It's a money issue.
And so
And
Bitcoin was what triggered this for you, right? Bitcoin
hell
was
yeah.
when you understood proof of work, you understood Bitcoin, the
Hmm.
truth and money, you could immediately correlate that to truth and food
Yes.
and build a whole new system. And this is where I want to get into your solutions because I think your solutions are brilliant. I think this is going to have a positive impact on us, all of us. So um,
Sure.
maybe let's start with this Bitcoin connection and how
You bet.
that is like the spark that gets us
Yeah.
to these solutions now that you're providing.
Well, and I love this because now finally get to start talking about my history and my past and kind of like my, aptitude towards things. And, I'm not a computer guy. I have some great cyberpunk friends that taught me a tremendous amount of technology, but I was pretty good at it too. And to talk about technology and Bitcoin, whenever I was, I don't know, it was late 90s. I was cowboying up in the southern Rockies of New Mexico. I'd gotten tired of freaking smelling like ass, and I said, "Well, I'm gonna get back into technology." I was worn out, so
Yeah,
I said, "I'm getting back to Austin," because it was fun. That's what you could do
yeah,
back then. You could go out there and cowboy, then you could go for 6 months, and then you could go out there and work a contract for six
that's
months
cool.
in Austin. It was a hell of a lifestyle. And so I ended up back in Austin and I started working for the startup company. And what we were doing this peer to peer trading with technology, this new software. It sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And so this was 1998, guys. And what we were doing, we were the first company ever. And I was in the top 50 of this company, but I was a little bit better than that. But I don't talk those numbers. But what we were the first, basically a software trading platform company in the world that allowed you to basically trade from your computer to the ECNs in Washington. You had E-Trade back then,
Mm-hmm.
but all they were doing was emailing to a broker. You had basically, you weren't bending time and space, like Mr.
Yeah.
Saylor likes to say. We were the first basically trading platform to ever allow you to trade basically from your computer at home within a split second to the ECNs in Washington. Charles
Interesting.
Schwab saw that technology early on and he bought us out for $500 million in stock.
Wow.
Okay, that happened around 1999, 2000. I was in networking. I was a networking guy. That's where my mindset in technology came from. So whenever I basically had that type of experience, that was just one of my experiences in Austin in technology. But what that was peer-to-peer trading. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, a food system that has been so centralized. And if you understand agriculture and understand basically how the whole system works, how many touch points there are, how do we eliminate all these basically passageways to get you, what I used to do is I used to create passageways for some guy in, let's say, Alpine, Texas to the ECN in Manhattan. Well, I would engineer a backbone delivery system for his IP structure. And so what I was doing, I was delivering his package even quicker. So I had to understand basically, whenever I saw Bitcoin, when I saw beef, when I saw food systems, I understood microprocessing centers and all the basically the bottlenecks, the pain points. It basically was a moment of
Mm-hmm.
clarity. It's like, what? Okay, we just
Yeah.
have a new food system because we have a new money
Interesting.
system and we have a new networking system. Because I understand the networking system of days gone by. I understand that basically the capture of our networking system within the food integrated system that we now, from the aggregated distribution systems to the microprocessing center into those contracts into the regulatory capture, we can circumvent around that now. And that's
Right.
what the Beef Initiative is doing. We don't have to
Right.
ask for
So
permission.
you're
So
building
few
a,
people
it's like a mesh network for the beef system or the
Yes,
beef distribution
because
system.
the cattle industry is already a mesh system. That's what people don't
Mm.
understand. See, what it is, it's formalized to be centralized.
Mm.
And what we
Right.
have to do is say no to that end point of centralization. And where is that? Well, it's in the input system of basically the feed of the soil and of the cattle and of the processing center. So in the beef initiative, we changed the input systems to where we're not using the centralized input systems of fertilizer and basically, everything that are pesticides, herbicides. We don't touch that stuff. I've got new relationships with basically corporations, startup companies, just like Cybercore was, and it's called Better Fed Foods. Well, we've been doing this for a while with them. They've been doing it for decades as far as regenerative inputs for the soil and for the forage and for our animals. And so now we don't even have to go to Monsanto, Bayer. We don't have to go to Merck. We don't have to go to Pfizer. We don't have to do anybody because we don't have any contracts that we
Oh,
have to
that's great.
sign with that system.
That's
And
great.
so but we are actually designing better premium beef because we're talking to the omega 3s in the soil and into the cow. And we know because we've been tracking this stuff for decades through Kansas State University. So we've got all the scientific and biological studies that shows that we have better beef, healthier consumer, healthier soil, healthier forage, healthier processing plants because our cows don't have 5,000 cows that are getting harvested each day. We might do about 5 to 10 to 15 to 20, which is,
Mm-hmm.
we don't have sanitation problems. We don't even have bacteria problems.
Right.
There's never been any listeria nor E. coli in any of the microprocessing centers that we basically use as precedents in the state of Texas and across the United States. I can go on forever.
Mm.
Nobody can touch us now because we are fully integrated, decentralized, basically away from the centralized, aggregated cattle industry in the United States of America.
So how many small processors now have you all been involved in setting up?
Well, we've got basically the ones that I like to really tout right now is Panhandle Meats. That was the first one. That's up here in the
Okay.
Texas Panhandle. And that's a state certified. That's very key. State certified by the state of
Mm.
Texas. Okay, that's Justin Trammell,
So
Donnie Trammell.
so when they're state certified, that means they could take a rancher's product, a commodity producer with no label,
Mm-hmm.
no branding,
Yep.
no market access, bring it to Justin's facility. Justin will accept that beef, process it under his own label. Is that how that works?
You can do anything you want with it
Oh,
at
okay.
that point in time. Yes. I mean, if you have a producer, let's say right now, I'm Texas Slim. I have a cow. I can go out there. I'm not going to go over there and say, hey, put my beef in, Kroger into something like that. But if I want to put a label on that damn beef and that basically is certified by the state of Texas,
Mm-hmm.
I can sell that beef retail, but not through a storefront. That's where you get into all these cottage food laws. You get into basically the local food laws of your counties in the state of Texas and the states themselves.
Right.
And this
Can
is
we?
what everybody needs to look at.
Yeah. Can we touch on that a little bit because that really
Yep,
does. That really kind of is the bottleneck, right? For these small
sure.
farms to get to market. They kind
It
of
really
dead end
is.
there, right?
Right. And that's where it kind of, I was talking about that guy that, he can't, not everybody can be Jimmy Dean, right? And so what do you do? Well, this is where you get into herd share programs, and this is what we're going to start introducing because you want everybody in your, let's start with this community here, and I'll go into the other processing center, which is Hometown Meats in Luling, Texas.
Okay.
That's Cole Bolton and Clyde Summerlottie of K&C Cattle and 2 Bar C. Okay. And that's USDA. Okay. So those two different types of processing
Okay.
centers in the state of Texas. So we'll go back to Panhandle Meats. But then you've got, all right, you got Justin and his father. Donnie's the cattleman. Justin is basically, he's a USDA certified on poultry, USDA certified in ruminants as far as, hog, beef, lamb, pork, everything. So we've got everything covered here within that processing center. Okay, you also have basically the producers that, they don't want to take it out to Hereford, Texas. That's the belly of the beef is Hereford, Texas. That's where all the multinationals are. So you've got guys locally here that's all they do is they rose 10 cows, maybe 10 cows a year, 20 cows a year. They've got people they can feed because they process their beeves through Justin's processing plant. It's peer to peer. They do it all the day. And they can have the label on their beef. They can do anything they want, but that beef has to stay in the state of Texas.
Okay.
Okay. They can't do across interstate travel, interstate basically e-commerce.
And
You
why
can't do
why
that.
is that? Is it
Well,
just
because
because
this
it's
is where
a
you
like
get
sort
into
of
regulatory
yeah
capture.
yeah
Yes, that's it right here.
it's
Because
crazy.
whenever you start, you get into federal state lines. This is what's basically weaponized against us as well. Because if you're looking at what they're doing with the RFID chips and everything, a lot of cattle producers, I'm in a tri-state area. They call it right here in the
Mm-hmm.
panhandle of Texas. We got Oklahoma, we got Kansas, we got New Mexico, we got Texas. That's a lot of cattle country, man.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of producers that have to take cattle from Texas to New Mexico to Oklahoma to Kansas to da 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 da. And so if you look at that, just right there, I mean, how much pain and heartache that causes us because we have to basically rotational grazing. Hey, I've got pasture land out here in New Mexico. I'm going to start it over here, then I'm going to take it over here to Oklahoma. Then I'm going to bring it back here to Texas. Okay, but then you try to sell that beef that was raised in a very regenerative way, but then you have interstate travel of commerce, and there's no rhyme or reason you should be able to sell that
Yeah,
beef anywhere.
that's a
That's where that's
freaking
where we've
joke.
lost it. It's
That's a joke.
overreach, it's federal
Yeah,
overreach, and this is
absolutely.
basically how we've surrendered and centralized and basically consolidated our food systems over to multinational systems because they know how to regulate us
Right.
out of our own market access.
I mean,
This is
this
what the
is
nation
insane.
needs to wake
They
up
need
to
to know. Yeah, they need to wake up to this.
because everybody says, oh, we're getting basically, farmlands being owned and all this by China. Yes, it's true. Yes, it's factual. Folks, we live in a fiat system. We live in a digital world, man. We live in a system where corrupt politicians have sold their souls and sold our food systems, man. What we are
Mm-hmm.
under is basically a coup of our food system,
Yeah, they're
and
not
it
like
tastes really good.
these regulators. I don't know if they've been fooled into thinking that they're saving the American people, but what they're doing is that they're actually destroying the entire American food system.
Yes, they've already destroyed. It's destroyed right now, because what we see, no matter if this administration gets kicked out, whatever happens here, folks, we got recovery, and people don't even know that we need to do a year, at least 5 years of recovery.
Right.
If all this climate change bullshit goes away,
Right.
okay, all the
which by the
damage from
way, we
coal.
got the coldest temperatures on record for the last
Yeah,
245 years. It's just as a
exactly.
side note, check.
Exactly. And cows, they don't fart, they burp, all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But let's just put it into perspective here. No matter what, the damage is already done. They got their marching orders big time financially, basically scientifically, globally, government, everything back in 2017, 16, 17, when Monsanto was consumed up by Bayer and all these mass consolidations that happened within international food systems, chemical, grain, food systems, everything. Basically, there's a shift coming. And this is what people are going to wake up to in
Mm-hmm.
2025.
Mm-hmm.
And but they have to understand, if you don't have developed your market access to clean and truth and food in 2025, you're probably not going to have too much of a chance to
Is
do it.
is RFK aware of your initiative?
I don't know. He should
He
be.
should be. Yeah, he should
But see,
definitely be.
I can't pander to all
Yeah,
these
yeah, yeah,
dudes. We've
yeah.
been
Right.
doing this shit.
Yeah, you're just building.
RFK,
You're just building
yeah,
it.
we're just building.
He'll
I'm
find
sorry.
you.
And he will. And because we have all the proof of work.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say, I will sit at the table with anybody in this world right now and talk cattle.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to tell me, you're going to look at me and say, and I'm talking to all the gray hat cowboys out there, all
Mm-hmm.
those ranchers out there that have really done a damn good job in the cattle industry, over the last 50 years. I'm here to tell you the gig is up,
Mm.
and we better wake up as far as producers and operators, because no matter what you think, we have to basically understand that the integration that they've done to our food system is basically so damaged at this point. Our health is so damaged as a nation, and what they're doing to processing centers, they've got processing centers right now. Let's look at this. Siemens Energy Company, big global energy company, right?
Mm-hmm.
You think that they're not part of climate change and everything else. Well, they're also part of processing centers. They've got a processing center right now that they're ready to drop on the ground and facilitate. Well, it has robotics. It has nothing to do with human interaction. You won't even know what happened to that cow, because it's going to be processed by basically precision cutting, lasering, all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah.
And so what they're doing is they're sanitizing basically the mindset of this nation so much, and they're using so much introduction of technology, has nothing to do with food. And so they're going to sell all of these things to a population that doesn't understand that that's only more control and more centralization of, and basically turning our food system into nothing more than a warehouse boxed solution for consumption. That's all it is.
Yeah. So you're
Once
you're
that happens, you're done.
yeah. Yeah, I'm really seeing this that you're fighting this on all fronts. I mean, you've got to create consumer demand, or consumers
Yes.
have got to wake up. They got to understand. They've got to be educated as to why it's important to get access to this meat. You've got to have the microprocessors giving market access to these small farmers.
Yeah.
And then you've got all these regulatory agencies that you've got to educate or figure out how to get around so that that product can get to the consumer, at least in that state, and hopefully across other state lines.
Yes.
I mean, am I missing? Is there other components in
You're
there? Is that?
nailed. No, man, you're doing great, and I really appreciate your intentionality, really your focus, because that's something that I'm starting to come. I started the Beef Initiative in Bitcoin Twitter for reasons, and I quit doing podcasts a while back. It was before I went to Asia last year. I left probably about this time last year to Thailand, and that's a story within itself. We got Captain Sid, we have Evan, and everything that he's done for the Beef Initiative within his basically, his lifestyle, everything that he's doing within, he rode his Harley across the United States, and the reconnaissance that he's done both domestically and globally for the Beef Initiative. He's really gone out there and been intentional, just like you are, with understanding food systems, his own health, all that kind of stuff. But, to say all that, starting in the Bitcoin space, I had to quit doing podcasts because all I was doing was talking about freaking seed oils. And what
Mm,
we're doing is we're building a cattle industry. We
yeah,
really
yeah,
are. So you're seeing it. And, we've got beef news now. We've created something. We've got Roughshot. We've got June, out there in Florida. I mean, he's our chief creative officer. I mean, everything that you look at as far as the beef initiative, it is a design now. It
yeah.
is basically a design of an industry. And so we've got Beef Initiative, we've got beefnews.org, a fascinating, wonderful, I really, 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 people need, if you want to know up to date what's going on in the cattle industry in the United States, from policy to basically having market access to everything that's about to start unfolding within basically the cattle industry, the United States of America, beefnews.org is going to be your place.
Okay.
Something that we put together. Brianna Sagdahl is the chief editor, research analyst. She's one of the smartest agricultural research analysts I've ever come across. She is now basically the head writer and editor for that. We're going to have more people writing for Beef News. June, he's publishing an article. I just published two articles that concern the Texas fire relief from the largest fire we've ever had in Texas history. That's just another side project that I've been doing. But beefnews.org is a wonderful platform. It's going to basically rival any other type of publication out there. That's what we're shooting for. So we've developed so many industry specific things that I need the Bitcoin space to
Hmm.
really, help us promote. I'm
Yeah.
glad you came back and reached out to me
Yeah.
because I
Good.
haven't done podcasts, but I got to get back out there because we have so many new things that are basically that we've been building. And that's why I kind of went silent. It's like we had to go
Gotcha.
build, man. I couldn't be
Gotcha.
bumping my gums every day on podcast.
Yeah.
So,
Right. So let's talk about the stuff that you've built. I,
sure.
I picked up that, these microprocessing centers are key to this being successful
Right.
as people wake up, they got to have access to this meat, and the easier we can make that for them, the better. I mean, I'm driving 2 hours sometimes to go pick up a half a cow.
Good
Um,
job.
but
And
for lots
what
of
a great
friends,
experience. But see,
it
what a
is a
great
great,
experience
it
that
is.
is.
No, it really is. And it's taught me a ton because of exactly what you said. Like, the farmer will take me on his land and he'll pull weeds out that he knows his cows aren't going to eat. I mean, it's that meticulous, guys. They treat their
They
farm
do.
like a 5-star hotel. They want everything to be perfect for those animals, and they treat them so well. And it's just, you learn so much about how much effort and care and love goes into raising those animals, and
All right, Paul,
they're
let's talk
proud to
about your
give it to you.
lifestyle. And you got 2 hours. You drive, let's say 2 hours in Florida. You
Mm-hmm.
drive 2 hours one direction, you drive 2 hours in another direction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're going to get food. You're going to get food for friends and family and yourself.
Yep.
Okay, you're being very intentional. What does that do to your spirit? What does that do to your communications? What does
Yeah.
it do to your mindset over the next basically those 4 hours? You're telling people what you're doing. Okay,
Yep.
you're telling a story. Yep.
That's
You're
right.
not basically bumping your gums about dipshit deceptions out there. You're
Yep.
basically how am I going to store this free? How am I going to
Yep.
store this beef? Who gets it first? What am I going to prepare? How am I going to basically engineer my meals moving forward? When am I going to eat that?
Yeah.
Those ribeyes. There's only 14 ribeyes in this cow.
I I,
So how am I going to
I
plan
woke
that?
up. I
Right?
woke this morning. I posted a picture on Twitter this morning because I pulled a big brisket out, and I was like, it's going to be thawing all day, and so that's
There
going to
you
be
go.
cooking for, we're getting ready for the weekend, right? You start thinking long term, and this is a Bitcoin
Yes.
philosophy of
Yes.
starting to say, okay, I want to have my beef lined up for the year. I want to have
Yes.
my refrigeration. If I got refrigeration, I need to have backup power here in Florida. This if power goes out, I got to have some way to keep this beef cold. So you start thinking long term. You start thinking intentionally. If I'm going to put this much effort and energy into it, I want to have the best quality, just like Bitcoin's the top quality money in the world. This is going to be my top quality beef in the
Hmm.
world, right? And
Yep.
so, and it's just an adaptation. For me, it all started from health. It all started from just I want to put good stuff in my body, and once you start doing it, and you fall off the wagon, and you immediately feel the implications of falling off the wagon, you want to get back on the wagon, right? So it
Sure.
starts there from selfish reasons, right? Just like Bitcoin.
Hmm.
You start stacking sats for
100%.
selfish reasons. I'm going to get wealthy. I'm going to stack sats.
We're very selfish people,
it's,
especially whenever you know yourself, man. You better
but,
feed
but,
yourself first,
but
you know?
like the Bitcoin network, and this just dawned on me right now, like the Bitcoin network, that selfish interaction with the network is benefiting the whole world. That
Yes,
selfish
it is.
interaction with that quality beef is benefiting your whole community. that farmer,
Yes.
his family, his kids, the processor, you name it, right? So it's about it really is just like a connection to the system that
Yeah, it
that
really
is
is.
super valuable once you're there. And it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen instantly, right? It takes time. It takes
Takes experience,
yeah, and it takes effort and
results.
energy. Yeah.
Well, it takes
I mean, it was,
results and analyzing the
hey, I
results.
mean,
How did I feel after I ate that cow?
that's right.
Oh my
And
gosh, it took me a year to eat that cow. Well, shit, I feel better this year than I did last year.
and
There's so many little,
it takes fear and greed too, to be totally honest, right? Like, I thought I was doing the right thing buying my grass-fed organic beef at Walmart. I thought I was doing the right thing, right? And
yeah.
then COVID hits, and you start, oh, mRNA and injections and vaccines and food, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, I don't trust the anything unless I can shake that guy's hand and see where that cow's raised and talk to this guy personally, and I trust this guy. So once you get there, then a 2-hour drive, it's nothing for my family. Like, that's what I want for my family. And
You know what
so,
I like to tell people, it's a wonderful form of obligation that comes over yourself,
yeah.
your personal self. Once you've had that handshake with that producer and you watch him reach down and pull a weed
Mm-hmm.
because he doesn't, okay, you're like, well, shit. You have reflection that okay. We live in a digital world, and I worked in the intelligence labs, and we did a lot of human behavior studies.
Mm.
So you look at the digital world we're living in, right? Okay, most of our digital consumption is basically engineered for a reaction.
Yes.
It's the attention economy.
Yes.
Okay, whenever you watch that producer go down there and pull that weed, that's basically you have a reaction. Okay, you saw somebody do something that basically has hundreds of years worth of intelligence. That was the action you just saw.
Yeah.
So once you have that obligation and once you've shaken his hand, you've looked him in the eye, you've had that conversation, you've had that moment of clarity, you've had that low time preference form of thinking, that's your reaction instead of some knee jerk. I'm pulling over here because of, I saw this marketing advertising, whatever it is. But that obligation to that man and to his basically system that he has allowed you to witness,
Yeah.
man, you can't turn back. And if you do, you better go look in the mirror. You got a lack of character.
That's right.
You've got something going on that you need to look at yourself before you do any more judging anybody else or your food systems or anything else. You better go look in the mirror
Yeah.
because you just witnessed something that was basically a new form of obligation that is required of a nation to understand that this is about relationships, man.
Mm-hmm.
And it's time to reestablish our relationships because the division of interpersonal communication in this world, but especially in the United States right now, is an epidemic of proportions that
Yeah.
people don't understand at this
That's
point in
it, and
time.
it's a relationship with that farmer, but it's also a relationship with those animals, right?
Yes.
Like he told me, he's like, I'm pulling this. He's pulling that weed because he's noticed that they don't eat those weeds.
Yes.
Not because some Department of Agriculture said is an invasive, just like that. He's just, when they're done grazing and he moves them to the next paddock, that's
Yep.
what's left standing that no one's eating. So he doesn't
You know
want
what we
that
call
to
that?
continue to grow. So he's
You
just,
know what we call that in the Beef Initiative, and Jason Rick of Rick Ranches,
what
which
is
is a
that?
pioneer of the Beef Initiative. He's one of the producers that I first shook hands with. He calls that observational, basically
Yeah.
science.
Yeah.
And oh
Yeah.
my
That's it.
God,
Right. Yeah.
it's so useful.
So
It's
useful.
amazing.
Yeah.
These cows will also go out there and they'll find some weeds that have some amazing amounts of protein in it. And they'll go straight to that weed and they'll consume that first because they're going to deliver that protein to you one of these
Mm-hmm.
days.
Mm-hmm.
And see, they know that because they're a land tool. Not only do they know exactly what forage to consume, but they also know, basically when and when not to
Mm-hmm.
consume. So
Yeah. And he's
this
got,
is once again, see, now you have that
right.
obligation
Right.
of
Right.
basically learning. Now, I mean, that's a rabbit hole within
Oh,
itself.
absolutely. And I'm so fascinated by these guys because they go as he went as far as to say, like, he moves his cows every day because if they eat more than 30% of the tips of the grass, it's going
Yep.
to be damaging to the root system as
To the
opposed to
root system.
strengthening the. So he's got a relationship with the grass too. And then that
Yes.
goes into the soil. So it's a relationship with the entire ecosystem that to me is so fascinating. And as a Bitcoiner, we're doing the same thing. We're trying to have this relationship with the entire ecosystem. It's not, maybe it
Yes.
starts with just the coin, just like over here. It starts with this. Oh man, I really like steak. To then understanding that there's got to be a diversification or decentralization of nodes, and those nodes have got to then feed the miners, and then the miners we have to have decentralization in mining in order to make sure that we don't lose this entire ecosystem, right? So
Yes.
so
Yes.
it's once you understand Bitcoin, it gives you this structure or uh, protocol that you can then start to look at all the other natural systems. Or like, I don't know if Bitcoin's mimicking natural systems, or if it's
Will
just
we ever figure it out
I
though,
don't know.
though?
I don't know.
Probably
Like,
not.
right?
I
Probably
mean,
not. But when you see that growing up and always being observing natural systems, that just struck me as something so unique and so special about Bitcoin when I recognized
yes. And then, I mean, I mean, that was a moment of clarity, Paul. I think you just nailed it because, I mean, that's what you get. I mean, you look at, let's look at June. I mean, the man's a genius, okay? And he basically, he heard me on Bitcoin kindergarten, and he has basically done so much work for the Beef
it.
Initiative. And he comes from freaking urban America, man. He comes from the streets of
Oh,
Philadelphia.
okay.
I mean, he was trapped in Philadelphia during, COVID, during, the elections. I mean, he came from, the same type of agricultural poverty, though. Think about that. That was designed by the money, basically, system. So we're both there, but he'd never been around a cow before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, never. You know, a little over a year, June, roughshod, had never been around a cow.
Well,
Most of America never has.
yeah.
And so, but if you look at the cow and you look at history and you look at civilizations and you look how we treated the cow, just the cow,
Mm-hmm.
look at religions, look at
Right. Yeah.
everything,
It's
look at
global, and it's
everything
global. It's not.
forever.
Yeah.
And for the history of mankind, every civilization that worshiped the cow in some form or fashion, be it because of religion that they're not going to consume that cow, or because it gave them the best freaking food system that they had ever known. It doesn't matter. Societies that have basically honored the cow in any form or fashion basically are healthy, they're basically successful, and
Mm-hmm.
they know how to treat their environments.
This is such an important point. I think that people are completely disconnected from, but it's this honoring this animal that you're going to be taking its life, right?
Yes.
And so many people get hung up in this. Oh, I'm gonna not eat meat at all because I can't fathom taking the
Well,
life of
it's
this
very
animal.
idealistic.
It
It's very
is.
idealistic, and people got to get over that shit.
They
There's life and
do.
there's death.
And I think the key to getting over that is the honoring of that animal, right? I
Yes,
think
100%.
The Native American culture was absolutely dialed into
Thousands
this,
of
right?
years.
Right.
Yes, that's what they did.
And I had picked up that just from the little bit of experience I had hunting growing up.
Hmm.
And if you're going to take this animal's life, you're going to eat every freaking piece of that animal. Like that's your
Yes.
duty and that's your responsibility, and you're gonna treat it properly. And there was a lot of gamey meat that I was not real happy about eating, but damn it, I'm gonna eat
So
it.
true.
And
Right.
you figure out how to make it work. But
You do.
like, how do we, when you've got 99% of the world's population no longer with that connection to the animals they're eating, how do we rebuild that honor so that they then appreciate the farmer and everything that goes into it, and they feel a part of that system as opposed to just getting that burger at McDonald's or that taco at Taco
Yeah.
Bell.
Well, the way I look at it, and the behavioral studies that I was basically, afforded to have to go through becoming a research analyst and everything, what I see, and I told June this too. He gets it because he's actually I think it's Emmy-winning radio. He's got a documentary that he did sound on, but he gets what I'm talking about here when I talk about like pop culture and behavior. Where are we with understanding? Like you said, 90% of people don't even know what freaking, food is, or what animals are, or they have never even seen a cow, kind of like what June had never been afforded that access. But if you look at it, we've got to basically, you do it by truth and propaganda. And you get these people out there that are going to basically drink the stupid Kool-Aid of the climate change hoax that's going on now. And they're going to basically look and say, well, I'm going to become vegan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, go for it. Okay, well, at least get close to the cow, man. Let honor the cow. Please tell us more about the cow of your understanding. You tell and you challenge people to basically go protect the cow by basically worshiping the cow, they're going to come to some conclusions that they're not fucking getting to,
Mm-hmm.
basically, with this idealistic stance that they got going on. They're going to understand the best way to honor a cow is to give it its best life possible over a period of life and let it have one bad day.
Yeah.
That's whenever you truly love and worship a cow, because you've given that cow a life that it could never have out in the wild. Plus, you're going to honor it with your life by giving it energy throughout. But what you're not going to do is you're not going to harm it the way that basically most of people are doing these days in our basically food systems. When
Yeah.
you get people, all the vegans that come to me, especially in the United States of America, and I don't care if you're vegan, man, that's fine. I believe in truth in food. I could give two shits if you want to eat eggplant.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm going to ask you then, if you're going to come to me and say that, we're basically destroying the world by honoring the cows and which
Yeah.
how we do it, I'm going to ask you how many freaking animals you've seen go up in a combine, because I've seen Bambi just disintegrate in a combine whenever
Mm-hmm.
that grain is
Oh
being
yeah, yeah, yeah,
used
yeah.
for that little, that hummus or
Yeah.
whatever, that little
Right.
self-righteous, story that you've got going on. So if you're going to talk about animal welfare, well, your cattle rancher producer in the United States of America is probably the number one basically person you should be surrounding yourself when it comes to animal
Yeah.
welfare in the United States.
That's
And this is
right.
what, once again, man, this is what a general population does not
They don't.
understand.
They don't. And
You
and they
you're
look at.
talking to a cow.
Oh,
Think
go ahead.
about this. You're talking to a cowboy on horseback that his life, and probably the lives of everybody behind him for at least 100 years, was to make sure that damn animal had a good
Yep.
life. That's their life. And how we lost touch with that?
That's
Well, it's
right.
because we live in a digital world. We don't know what our consumption model basically affords us on the other
Mm-hmm.
end of
Mm-hmm.
that next swipe or that next agenda that's
Mm-hmm.
being, done through regulatory capture or through a digital engineering. The general population doesn't understand. These
Yeah.
smartphones are basically a trap within themselves.
This is one of the things that makes me so hopeful about the Bitcoin community is that there's this embracing of the frontier of technology, but at the same time looking back towards the roots of humanity, of
Yeah,
like, let's embrace technology, but let's do it in a fashion that supports humanity. and
100%.
and I see that in the Bitcoin culture, and that's what gave me so much hope when I started
Yes.
getting into this. um
Me
and
too, man. I'll be the first to say, man, I dropped out of big tech. I was done with big tech in 2016, 17. I pulled old Brad Pitt, man. I was done. So
mm,
I'm out of here. Check you.
mm-hmm,
As far as the big short, I
mm-hmm,
was done. And I've seen technology basically. Dot-com boom, dot-com bust, software
yeah,
engineering. I've been through this, guys. I can have some fascinating technology discussions, and I'm surprised more people don't come to me, but I haven't been really forthright with that. But as far as my aptitude of understanding technology, but where we are right now is that we can leverage this new form of technology, and it's going to give us that chance to be able to pause so that we can now honor back to what we haven't been able to
right,
because of the innovation of technology. It's been too busy, man. It's been a grind. But I think we're at a point in time that if we focus, especially within Bitcoin,
yeah,
we're able to take a pause to where we can
yeah.
say, let's get back to the source of
i
the seed of what this is all about.
I think, for me, the way I'm looking at this, and this is obviously rolling this Bitcoin evolution out far enough, and you start to say, like, man, it changes consumption. We've talked about this internally in the company and amongst Bitcoiner friends that, stacking sats, having hard money that goes up in purchasing power changes your consumption behavior.
Yeah.
And so if I'm going to let those Bitcoin go, I want the best quality I can get.
Yes.
And so you're gonna think hard, you're gonna think slow, you're gonna think long term. What's the total value out of spending this Bitcoin? And so that leads towards, I want to get the best beef from the best farmer I can find and support the guy that is supporting my whole community. That changes from, I don't want the cheap throwaway lawnmower, right? That
Yeah.
dies every 2 years. I want to buy the one that's going to last my lifetime, right?
Yep.
So that kind of change in mindset, that long term thinking. So I think it's a great alignment, right? Like Bitcoin is going to drive or realign those American manufacturing, American producing principles that we all uh, that built this country up and made it a great
Yeah.
country to begin with, right? We used to
Yes.
build cars that last forever. We used to build things that last forever. Our food system was high quality, right? That's what made America an incredible country. And I think having hard money will hopefully, and we're just getting started on this journey, but over a long enough lifetime, our kids are hopefully going to see that future.
They're going to, and this is where we're going through, and this is very important because we've gone through these paradigm shifts before, and
Mm-hmm.
I know that this is the paradigm shift that we're going through within food right now because of my understanding of technology and understanding of this new money system. And so once people kind of, that's why we have that slogan, the I am Texas Slim Foundation. I am Texas Slim. Are you? What
Mm-hmm.
it means is it's the individual that goes out there and understands that there's a new money system, there's a new food system that's already been created, and there's basically a new health system. Look at our new relationship with crowd health. They
Mm-hmm.
started in the Bitcoin space too. So Beef Initiative and Crowd Health are now partners. And so we're merging. Okay, look at that. We're merging industries
Tell me more
now.
about that. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, we're basically what we did is when we had the Cattlemen's Feast in Nashville, and I've known Andy for a couple of years now, and they kind of sponsored a couple of the summits that I had in the very beginning, those really grassroots summits that I
Mm-hmm.
did starting in 2022, I believe. We had so many of them now I can't even remember, but we had the Cattlemen's Feast in Nashville. They were our number one headline sponsor, and I've known Andy, he's known me, but I went to him and I said, "Hey, I want you to sponsor this event because we're going to have something called the Tomahawk Ribeye Eating Contest." And I know that Andy and Josh, that now he's with Crowd Health as well. He's their marketing guru. But what they're doing now is they have a new program. It's called Crowd Health Carnivore.
Okay.
And so they're looking at markers, basically metabolic markers that are basically they're working with other doctors and saying, okay, we got a carnivore crowd over here in the Bitcoin space. We want to look at the markers of metabolic health.
Interesting.
These guys are eating beef. Let's go out here and create some new markers. Screw the insurance companies. We're going to create out there. So I love the idea, everything that Andy's doing, Josh is doing in Crowd Health, because they are offering really good solutions to people that are wanting to exit out of this, centralized, captured health system. And if you look at cattle ranching, you look at rural America, crowd health is a great solution for rural America as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went and did the Cattleman's Feast. We had the tomahawk ribeye eating contest. Sean Baker blew everybody away. He ate three like in 30 minutes and he was just bored. So everybody else was suffering the whole time. So he was very cool. He
Yeah.
was very humble. But
Awesome.
there's just a big thing right there because, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, this is a great American health initiative being led by the Great American Rancher. We're getting back to regenerative agriculture, which starts with the health of the soil. Okay, with the health of the soil, we have the health of the forage, with the health of the cow. With the health of the cow, we have people that consume that cow.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a lifestyle of basically integrating everything that is decentralized, everything that is about the sovereign individual, and everything that is about the health of money, about the health of our nation, about the health of our food, about the health of our soil, about the health of our cows. You can't argue with this
Mm-mm.
that it works
Yep.
because we got 4 years that we've already integrated into this system. We use the centralized system. I had a very fascinating conversation with Cole Bolton 2 weeks ago. And Cole Bolton is basically the second guy I shook hands with, and he is part of the Beef Initiative as well. But this is he basically just had a merge with Two Bar C, Hometown Meats. You heard me talk
Yeah.
about USDA and Luling. Okay, that's the reason I was talking to Cole. They basically merged. Cole's going on to bigger and greener pastures. Everything's still the same within the Beef Initiative, KNC Cattle, Hometown Meats, and everything. But he said what people need to understand is what we've done here in the Beef Initiative is that we use the centralized system when we need to because we leverage them as they leverage us now. And so we've had that
How's that
turning
working?
point.
What does that
Oh,
explain that a little bit
well,
to me?
let's look at this because we're going to get into herd sharing now moving forward. We want everybody to start having access to build out your food systems for the next 10 years.
So
This is
herd
what we're
sharing, meaning, let's
that you're
say,
going to be able to own.
I would be able to say own 4 or 5 head that I have a farmer raising on my behalf. Is that what that means?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. For the just kind of the generalization of
sure.
everything.
Okay,
And you can do a herd share by going to like my new website. I'm going to do quarters and halves of beef. That'll be type of a herd share program that you can be a part of.
mm-hmm.
That way you're paying it forward. And that way you're feeding it forward. And you know that your input system that you've invested into is going to be secured, right? From your input system being your producer, your for the soil, for the forage, for your cow, everything, the processing center. So you get into this herd share system. Okay, we're at the lowest inventory that we've ever had. Well, the last 70 years in the United States right now with cattle. Okay, well, let's look at inventory of cattle. Whenever you're in a regenerative, basically, system like the Beef Initiative is, we don't use antibiotics or steroids or any vaccinations. We have to use what we have to use because there's some very good vaccinations that basically allow us to be regenerative producers. And that's something like the vaccine, the shot for Blackfoot, Black Hoof. That's something that's Angus cattle get it. It's horrible. But let's look at something like if you get Black Hoof, in a certain period of time, as you're raising that calf, if that calf is young, that system, it's going to be out of that calf system in a period of time. But if you have a healthy herd and you have basically a cow that gets sick, or you get two of them that get sick, it's not something that's going to kill the cow, but it's going to require a different inoculation to save that cow's life. You're going to vaccinate that cow. Well, in the beef initiative, what we're going to do is we're going to identify that cow. We're going to say, hey, auction house, we're going to use you for this cow because we know that you're going to purchase this cow. We're going to make top dollar for this cow. We've taken care of it, but we're not going to, it's not part of our business model because
Yep.
we don't sell beef like this, but you do. And you're not going to be forthright with it.
Okay,
We're going to use you and we're going to tell
yeah,
everybody that we're using you and the why behind what we're using. This is what we've done in the beef initiative. We're going to use the centralized system as they've been using us.
sure, makes sense.
We're going to leverage.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do in Bitcoin. We leverage, don't
Yep,
we?
yep, makes sense.
That's where that's with all this proof of work that we've just done in the beef initiative. Now we get into these herd shares. We get to get into a new form of education to the general public. It's
Yeah,
like,
that's
you want to
awesome.
talk about obligation. You just heard me, Texas Slim, say a herd share. We're going to go feed a freaking nation is what we're going to go
So
do.
in a herd
That's what,
share,
yeah, go
would
ahead.
somebody be able to be paying for that, the say raising of that animal and the butchering that basically up front with delivery X amount of
Well,
months after that? How's that all? What are
what you
the
do,
mechanisms by how that all works?
Well, you do a lot of different mechanisms. There's a lot of different ways you do this. You got cattle brokers right now, man. This
Okay,
is nothing new.
okay,
Okay. This is something that basically, but a lot of the ways that they've done herd shares in the past is basically to get the top dollar basically in the commodity market, right? So there's a lot of different ways you look at it, herd shares. Let's look at something that just happened over the last year, Agridime. You can look, everybody, all you Bitcoiners, look up Agridime. SEC busted them. Okay, it's a $200 million Ponzi scheme that they're still working with the SEC.
Mm.
But what they're doing is they're basically getting people to buy into a herd share program to where they can basically get top dollar and get returns off of those cattle sales. And so what happened though, they once again, this happens because we commoditized our beeves here and we've turned them into nothing more than a stock on the stock market, right?
Okay.
So if you look at what Agridyne did, it's a great in theory, it's fantastic in theory. Where it gets lost is in this fiat corrupted system. $200 million basically just Ponzi scheme.
Mm.
And the cow was used to basically create that Ponzi scheme. We know producers that lost everything. They lost everything
Oh
because
man.
of that. Well, we're going to start doing the same damn thing Agridyne did, but we're going to do it on a Bitcoin standard.
Okay.
It's as simple as that,
Uh-huh.
man.
Uh-huh.
So get ready. What we're going to do is we're going to do herd shares in different forms or fashions. There'll be different entry points, but it will either be for what is your why, your what, and your how. Why would
Cool.
you, the consumer, want to do a herd share?
Cool.
Right.
Cool.
And so you either get to be a part of something that you know you're going to get 4 quarters of beef every year for the next 10 years, or you're going to go out there and you're going to be part of a herd system that is part of a more of a branded beef line that is now aggregatedly being distributed across the United States of America.
Oh,
So
this
there's
is
going to be different.
exciting.
This is going to be fascinating. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, because I've been studying Jimmy Dean ever since I was a young boy. I mean, you look at how he did things in the beginning. Once again, what are we doing? We're going to get back to our roots, right?
Yep.
Well, I'm from Texas, so is Jimmy Dean. And, Jimmy Dean was first bought up by Hormel, and then Hormel was bought, and
Mm-hmm.
then, just the whole line. So I'm going to really use that basically how it ended up. That brand, Jimmy Dean, is now worth $1.8 billion and it's owned by Smithfield.
Yeah.
Smithfield is owned by China. Okay. So it's as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
So Jimmy Dean is now owned by CCP of China, parts of that division. He
Yeah.
has 254 specimens off of Jimmy Dean. Okay. So we're going to do the same type of shit in the beef initiative where we're going to create specimens of basically branded beef lines for these producers that have now now that we are to where we are within the beef initiative, you can't say that you can't take a branded beef line to market.
Yeah.
And so we're going to give these producers, I don't want to take my beef to market. Well, we have this input system now that is part of this aggregated, basically beef branded beef line. This is the input system. This is all you got to do
Right.
here. And so the consumer is going to see that. It's not that, the beef is going to taste the same
Right.
that is in Texas, that it does in Montana,
Yeah.
but you're going to know that it's regenerative,
Yeah.
the input, and you're going to know the producers and ranchers, and it's going to be associated with a branded beef line.
That's
Okay,
great.
that's one herd share program right there.
Right.
We've got
So
multiple
so
more.
the herd share is the financial mechanism that drives these commodity producers to the microprocessors and then gets it to
Yeah,
market, right?
there you go.
That's
That's
really
that's
cool.
we're the other bid. We're going to become the other bid
Yeah.
because what you got a guy, a cow calf operator, who's like, I don't want to go to auction house. It's been a drought. Inputs, diesel
Right.
prices are too high. I need another bid. I need to
Right.
take this cow to market in a
Right.
different way. I don't have that right now. Well, I got
Or
the beef initiative.
yeah, and like you said, I've got certain amount of cows that meet a certain amount of quality that I could send in this direction. I got
Yes.
others that can go in this direction. Like you said, without
Yep.
that option, you're getting bottom
No,
dollar no matter what you do. And if you're getting bottom
no
dollar
matter what you
no matter
do.
what you do, you're not going to do the right thing.
And they find ways to basically engineer making sure that they squeeze that last dollar out of you.
Yeah.
The beef checkoff
Mm-hmm.
used to just be $1. Now it's $2, and
Mm-hmm.
it is, we're the next beef checkoff mark. Put it
Cool.
that way.
Cool.
We're the other bid.
That's
And
great.
that's where this herd share basically introduction, we'll be announcing it probably in Austin next week.
Okay.
I think we're going to be at ABC next week. So Austin Bitcoin Club. So I think Cole's going to be there. I'll be there.
Cool.
So we've got some pretty big announcements, and we're still putting all of this together. But I need the Bitcoin space to understand. Y'all ready? Y'all been asking me about herd shares
Yeah.
and how do you create basically your own food systems? Well, we're there. And
That's great.
once I launch basically Texas Slim's Cuts, we've got beef news now. Cole Bolton's going to have more time to do everything. He's one of the smartest cattlemen that I've ever known. And let's look at Cole Bolton real
Okay.
quick, and let's look at the beef initiative. I brought up Justin Trammell. Okay, he grew up exactly where I grew up, in a lot of the ways how I grew up. Okay, in the Texas Panhandle. Okay, he's one of the first. He was the first guy I shook hands with. We got Cole Bolton of K&C Cattle, which he's been feeding hundreds and thousands of y'all's, I guess, for the 4 years
Hmm.
because we've been selling so much beef. But Cole Bolton, hometown meats. Okay, he comes from the commercial commodity industry, East Texas. Okay, but he saw something when he was young, and he goes, "Man, if I can learn how to take this beef to market, then I will basically be everything that I ever wanted to be, as far as a cowboy, as far as a rancher, as far as a cattleman." As far as the health of the soil, health of the cows, I mean, the boy has done his, his due diligence. Well, now that he's basically had this partnership with 2 Bar C, which is Clyde Summer Lottie, some of the best genetics of Angus cattle that I've ever seen. And we've got herds that have been created off all these genetics. We've got USDA processing. We've got Clyde and basically Cole have basically sealed the deal to consolidate everything that they've now accomplished during the time of the beef initiative. They did it on their own, of course, but we were just doing things in unison. So you've got all these really smart freaking cattle industry experts that are now part of the beef initiative. And then Jason Rick in Colorado. I'm going to go back to Jason, but you got Cole Bolton, Jason Rick, and Justin Trammell. But they know so many people in every facet of the cattle industry in the United States of America, from forage to inputs to processing to every integrated part that we've lost. These guys are now going to start leading a charge of basically having more airtime, having basically a better brand identity of educating the general public. And then once these guys get to talking, I'm a talking, and then we've got basically our platform, our e-commerce system that you can go right now, beefinitiative.com or welcome-to-beef.com. You can go buy beef. You and I are talking right now. You can go to Beef News and buy a box of beef. You can go to beefinitiative.com, buy beef. You can go to Substack and buy beef right now. You're going to have so many entry points. You're going to have so many of these wonderful producers, ranchers that started the beef initiative. We're about to explode this
That's
awareness
great.
because we got 4 years of everything that everybody in this nation is about to be looking for. All you got to do is say three simple words: welcome to beef.com.
That's
That's
awesome.
what we've done.
Oh
That's what we've
man,
accomplished.
you're
And that's what I need the Bitcoin crowd and the Bitcoin community to start blowing up again, because you're the only reason we're here was the Bitcoin community. I mean, people like Marty, people like, Matt, all these guys that really gave us a voice
mm-hmm,
early on.
mm-hmm.
It's time to get this buzz going again,
Yeah,
because we all did this together, Bitcoiners. It's just not, Texas Slim and Rough Shot and Cole Bolton and Jason, all and Justin. It's not all, and all the volunteers that we've had to come in. We've got Ranch Mama Shannon, we got Brianna. This was a collective effort. I mean, you think about, like, I'll give you an example. Marty. I'd been on Marty's podcast 2 or 3
mm-hmm.
times. All of a sudden, there's another cowboy on there. Who is it? Well, that's Dr. Brooke Miller of the U.S. Cattlemen's Association. I didn't know Brooke. Okay, he's on Marty. I've been on Marty. Well, all of a sudden, Marty says, "Hey, have you heard Slim? You heard of the Beef Initiative?" Well, I've heard of it, Brooke said. Well, all of a sudden, I get to meet Brooke. We started talking. He's the president of the U.S. Cattlemen's Association. I go off to Australia and Asia. I come back, and then we have a freaking summit at Ginger Hill Angus in Washington, Virginia, at the ex-PAX president of the U.S. Cattlemen's Association. See, that was because of Bitcoin
Mm.
that we had those forms. It wasn't because
Yeah,
I'm a cattleman and he's a cattleman. It's because the Bitcoin is the best network in the world to basically launch these new basically awareness campaigns that the general public is now just starting to see. Well,
right,
us Bitcoiners have been doing it for
right.
a while, and we've been doing it in the Bitcoin space since basically September 21 of 2021.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I mean, that's what Bitcoin is all about. It's about finding the truth. And
yep,
you, my friend, are a voice of truth, and that's why I think the Bitcoin community has embraced you and loves you so much. And you're doing,
it's
you,
been a hell of a journey, man. It's been a hell of a ride. And thank you for that feedback, because I don't get to see too much. I don't watch TV, I don't listen to radio, I don't do anything. I don't have to watch the news. I know basically all the bullshit that's going on.
Yeah.
But it's good to get good positive feedback because we're out there. We want to collaborate with the Bitcoin space. We want to innovate because we're innovating. We want people to ask the right questions. Let's go, guys. We
Yeah.
got to go feed a
Well,
nation. We got to go feed a world,
I'll tell you,
man.
anything Byte Federal can do to help the cause, we'll support you. We're happy to share this message, and if there's anything technically or things that we can do to help you guys, let us know. We're very supportive of what you're doing. A lot of us in the company followed you and buy beef from you, and so
Yes.
we're very supportive of it.
And that's so cool to hear because I the other day I went back to one of my first tweets and I called it the Texas Beef Initiative. I
Mm-hmm.
did, and I said I'm going to create these nodes and I'm going to go out there and do all. And it was back in 2021. But from Michelle to everybody there at Byte Federal, you guys, I mean, I don't get to give enough conversation to all the great people out there, but just don't look at the beef initiative as because we get a lot of feedback, right?
Yeah.
We get a lot of people that are confused from commodity guys, commercial commodity guys looking at me, a hippie punk cowboy, like who the hell is this dude calling himself Texas Slim that thinks he knows anything about the cattle industry, all the way over into the Bitcoin space thinking that we're not into Bitcoin enough.
Mm.
Bullshit, man. We've been innovating since day one. It's time for people to come into the beef
Yeah.
initiative. We have so much to offer. We have an autonomous network that we've built through different basically URLs. We have zero centralization where we can have decentralization. So we've got so much work. I want people to come back and revisit
Yeah.
everything that we've done.
Yeah.
Go beefinitiative.com, go to the bottom, go and I haven't said it enough because I'm just, it's too early, but after Austin, you're going to see something in the mapping system that we've basically been engineering. June's been really, really basically having some good successes. We're going to create a mapping system that's going to, it's going to rival Google.
Cool.
And it's going to be a global mapping system. Let's
Wow.
get back to this. One of the first questions you asked
Yeah.
me, it's like global. Well, let's get into El Salvador. We're going to get into freaking Colombia. We're going to get into
Awesome.
all these places. There are no borders. We're going to go out there and shake hands. I was all over Australia. I went there with Liz, Babes Who Bitcoin. Liz and I went all the way up the East Coast of Australia. Jacob Wolke. We were out there years before a lot of people understood about Bitcoin and beef. And so we've been across this world. We have 2 terabytes worth of data that of content that we've been editing that we're going to start releasing all over Twitter, social media, within our networks that we've created. So if you haven't been a part of this journey, get ready because it's, get your freaking, non-GMO popcorn, get your tallow and your lard, and let's get busy
Let's get
because we're
busy.
about to put on a show.
Awesome.
But we need help. We need help. We need support. We need the shares. I
Yeah.
need to do more podcasts.
Well, we
It's
got your
time.
back. We're excited to share this message. Texas, yeah, Slim, you've been a Bitcoin community promoter. We want to support you and the Beef Initiative, and thank you so much, you guys. If you like this podcast, if you like listening to guys like Texas Slim and finding out the bigger scope of how Bitcoin is changing the world, not just money, it's changing everything. Like and subscribe because it's guys like Texas Slim that are going to change the world, and you can be a part of it and hear about it here first. Texas, thank you so much, man. If there's anything
Yes.
we can do, do not hesitate to reach out. I'll give you the final word. Tell everybody what they need to know, and we need to talk offline about how Byte Federal can help you out.
There you go. One thing that a lot of people need to understand, and thanks for having so much awareness and intentionality, but everybody thinks that, we have to get back to the individual. In the Bitcoin space, we talk about the sovereign individual. And everything that I've done basically has come from the perspective of one man doing one thing, shaking one man's hand, basically focusing on one cow, basically one family, one community, basically at a time. And if we basically descale everything, we're not trying to feed the world here, man. We're not trying to save the world. We're trying to save the individual first. So if every individual will listen to what I did as far as a protocol to get into the Bitcoin, into basically a decentralized food system, everybody can follow the protocol that I've done and thousands more have now done, like June. I mean, look at June. Look at all these people in the Bitcoin space that are feeding their families now. Just go look in the mirror, man. Just freaking decentralize your mindset first. First, decentralized mindset. It all starts in the mindset, and then you'll find your integration. And then basically you find your own innovation with everything that we've talked about today. And that's what's so fascinating about this journey. Once you understand a decentralized mindset, then you actually find parts of yourself that you've never seen before. And that's what I think the most important thing for people to understand, because once you find the cleanest beef in the nation, right, or the cleanest beef in the world, you start thinking differently because your brain is getting the nutrients it needs. So that's a story that has so many testimonies. Just go witness it, and then you can go do your own thing as far as a Bitcoiner or as a cattle producer or as a consumer, man. The basically the solutions are out there and they're in abundance, man. There's so much good living right now. So appreciate you, Paul. Everybody over
Appreciate
there
you,
at Byte
Slim.
Federal. Man, I'll be hanging out with you guys soon, I hope.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.
All right, take care. Peace.
Peace. Don't check out yet. I got someone here who wants to say hi to you. So
I
don't.
bet it's Michelle.
Yeah, she's right over here.
I saw her on the email.
Here, that way she can talk to you. There you
Sweet. Hey, you.
Hey, how are you?
How's it going?
Good.
Good. I love all this.
I know, it's
I
awesome,
mean,
isn't
everything
it?
you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Yes, I was so excited when I saw y'all announce this. So thanks
Yeah.
for having me on, man.
Yeah, we're super glad to have you. We've got
Yes.
Paul and our podcast, and we're doing big things, and we're excited to be able to, include you and support you any way we can. And
Well, I appreciate it because I haven't done a lot of podcasting, but I
yeah,
told Paul and I were just discussing it's time to get back on the circuit
yeah,
because we're about to have a lot of new launches and a lot of new, basically, we've got so much shit going on right now that I've got to start telling everybody about it.
yeah.
So
Well, we're
this
happy to
was a
help you
good,
do that.
I'll put you to work. You put me to work. How's that?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if that'll work or
Fantastic.
not.
We're gonna find out.
We're gonna see if Paul can plug in.
You got it double?
Nope.
No, I think it's got to be like
No.
set up through the thing.
I want to
So
talk to my wallet.
here, I'm
I
gonna.
love your setup though.
Yeah, it's awesome. We're like all professional and stuff.
I know. Well, get busy.
Yeah, I'm
We'll
gonna.
talk to
He
you
wants
soon,
to talk
Michelle.
to you about one more thing. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna
You
give
bet.
him back these. Okay, bye.
All right. Peace.
Yeah, when I was listening to you talk, we're really close. We just did a deal with Cross River Bank, and so we're
Okay.
gonna start having. We had this in the past, and we lost it because we lost our banking partner. But we're gonna start having a checking account and a routing number in our wallet. So
No
so
shit.
people register to be like it's just like similar to Cash App, right? Where you got to check out
Right.
you got your USD fintech wallet banking app, and then right next to it you
Right.
got Bitcoin and Lightning. And that's probably a month away, hopefully, if all goes well and Apple lets it into the system and whatnot. We should go quick because we already have all the technology built. It's what we were doing, exactly what we were doing before.
Man, keep me up to speed. I need to do an audit of everything you just said.
Okay,
So
yeah,
please.
yeah, we'll
Because I'm
keep you up to
I'm in
date.
a pivot right now.
What?
I've had to go and I've had to change so many systems
Oh
just
yeah,
because
yeah.
of regulatory. We were using IBEX for a long time, but of
Yeah.
course they got the hell out.
So that's
And
I'm glad you brought that up because here with this new relationship, we will have MTLs in all 50 states and
no shit.
Canada. So we'll have
Okay.
full coverage. And we have a POS system. Michelle was one of the developers of the POS system.
Wow.
So we'll be able to process transactions in all 50 states and Canada,
Really?
Lightning or Bitcoin. And that's all coming right away. I mean, we have 10 MTLs now and 5 waiting, but this relationship with Cross River jumps us right across
Yeah.
the bound. Like we cover it all.
Well, let's have a business to business
Yeah,
discussion.
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Like,
All right,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Yeah.
All right.
And I need to, because, well, one thing that I've got the Rancher storefront here
Mm-hmm.
in where I am right now, and that's with Justin, and he sells his beef locally. I sell some premium cuts that I get out of Hometown Meats. But what we also do is we have a big community thing that we're doing, and POS systems in retail is horrible.
Yeah.
And I haven't gone into the POS system of the retail storefront just yet because I've been kind of wanting to introduce Bitcoin where I am in a more professional way
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah.
just
Well,
But
our POS system is a payment gateway, so it's got all the
do you
API keys. So
guys
we can
do you,
embed it in your shopping cart. We can give you a storefront smart POS device, anything you want.
can you do EBT?
Ooh, no, haven't done
No.
that yet. It's
Okay.
just Bitcoin and Lightning.
Gotcha.
We're not even
Okay.
doing credit cards or anything like that. We've built it to run alongside whoever you're currently using for those other technologies.
Gotcha. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
then that clarifies it even more
Okay.
for me. So that's
Okay.
all I need to know.
Yeah.
So yes. So let's talk at a certain point in time,
Awesome.
after this comes out, whenever you feel comfortable about, having
Yeah.
confidence to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
able to,
Exactly.
B2B it.
Yeah, we've got the POS system is running at 45 merchants right now as a beta. We did the
Mhm.
first gasoline transaction on the Lightning Network here about
Oh,
8 months
I
ago.
saw that. Yeah,
Um,
I saw that actually when it happened.
so it all works. It's all been running great. We're just not been promoting it because Lightning is custodial, which is why Ibex
Yeah.
bailed and everybody bailed. So we need to make sure that all of the licensing and regulatory framework is covered so that when we roll it out, we're good to go. So that's
All
all
right.
we're waiting for.
Well, I'm going to encourage you to think about becoming basically the transactional piece of, all of the beef transactions
I
in,
would love
the
it.
United
We
States.
would love it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
The opportunity's there.
Well,
So,
no, that's
uh,
what we want to do. We want to support you. So if we can make that happen, that'd be awesome.
yeah, let's take a look see and then we'll go from there.
All right, buddy. Great
All
talking
right,
to you. Thank
Paul.
you for all your time
Hey, you
today.
too.
All right, take care.
Let's follow up.
We
Yeah,
will.
definitely follow up. I want to tell you more about that herd share stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'd love to give you guys some first glimpses into who we're going to be offering
Okay.
it to and how we're going to be
Well,
offering.
please message me on Twitter or shoot me,
Okay.
and just let me know where and when I need to be in order to learn. And if you're
Okay.
doing a Twitter Spaces or you're doing a conference, I can drive a little ways or whatever.
Sure. I'll let you know.
All right, keep in
Sounds
touch.
like a plan, Paul.
Thanks, Slim.
All right, man.
All right, bye bye.